What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and we're here. It's the end of the season already. Jesus, we gotta give these shows higher episode counts. 6 episodes? Really? This is the season finale of Daryl Dixon. So season 2, episode 6. We only had 6 episodes. I swear I heard that they were giving more to season 2. I really thought it had been bumped up to 8, but I guess not. Whatever. Anyway, as a reminder, I am blind. As a reminder, I watched this on AMC Plus, which does not support audio description. So, there's no audio description here for me. And, there you go. So when people speak French, I'm like, that's cool. I don't know what you're saying. And zombie scenes are really hard to follow. And then on top of that, they had to go trip balls in this in this episode. They just had to walk into something that actually doesn't even make you hallucinate. So the writers here took huge liberties, which they've been kind of doing all the time. And I don't know. I like the show. I don't love the show. I wish the writers would do a better job. I think at this point, you're this far into Daryl's, really the Walking Dead's legacy, right? And I mentioned this in other recaps. I don't know if they think that they have people who have never watched The Walking Dead that are fans, and they don't want to get too much into the lore, sort of like what Marvel's trying to do now with the TV shows. They're like, oh, never mind. We're not going to make it so you have to watch every single TV show to understand what's happening in the MCU. We're going to try to start making, which is kind of nonsensical BS because, I mean, like Ironheart is definitely going to be in movies. So if you don't watch her show, it'll be weird because all you'll know is from like Wakanda Forever. So it's like, you kind of should still watch the TV shows. The only real exceptions to that would be like the animated ones, which don't seem to have any bleed or crossover. But here, this is a clear like sequel series to The Walking Dead. I mean, Daryl Dixon left to find Rick, who's been found in another show. But I don't think we're at the same point in the timeline. And it's always interesting to think about like how far they've traveled. And I think, is it Commonwealth in Ohio? They started on Atlanta. It's like, dude, these guys did a lot on foot. But this whole episode is basically to say goodbye to more people, which is what the whole season has been, which is Carol's here. We're going to do the Daryl and Carol thing we originally wanted to do, but we have to shed a whole bunch of characters in order to do that. So, the question was how. And we got to the point at the end of the last episode where they were talking about how all 4 of them couldn't fit on the plane. I was like, well, shit. Part of me thought they're going to kill Laurent because Carol's here. She's bad luck for children. And then the 3 adults will fly and then they'll be back in America and they'll have their American journeys. But no, apparently they want to stay over in Europe and they like the change of scenery. We're just going to go to a different country next season. And there's, a nice little scene with Daryl and Laurent when they're playing guitar, and he finds this shitty guitar, and they play "You Can't Always Get What You Want," which feels to me like that was kind of the moment where I was like, something's gonna happen here. Like, I think something's not gonna get, because this is way too on the nose. Of his long choice. So Cadron and some of the other good guys show up to help kind of fight off the fact that the bad guys are headed for them. So Carol and Daryl stay behind to get the plane so that the other 2 can leave. So they fly off into the sunset and nothing happens Yellow Jacket style. They didn't have, that would have been great if they had pulled that off. Um, but nobody gets shot down. The other thing I was thinking too was, wouldn't it be crazy if, with all the shooting that was going on, I was like, missed opportunities, right? So somehow everybody gets on the plane, right? And like they took off and it's flying. And because he makes some sort of statement to Carol about like, well, you got to go because you got to help me with the gears and the controls. Like he needs a co-pilot, right? And because she flew with him, that she would have some sort of cursory knowledge of how things work inside a plane. So part of me thought for a second, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if everybody got in there and then they find out that their pilot has been shot at some point over the sea. He's going to turn. So, um, yeah, they took off, but how are they going to land? And I was like, that would be an excellent way to end the season finale, is the fact that like somehow they were able to reason with getting all four of them in the same plane. And then that's how they solved the weight issue. Is it like, oh shit. Oh god. Well, he got us off the ground. Now we have to throw him out the pilot door. And then Carol's stuck there, having watched somebody fly a plane, and she's like, which would make sense because she would just kind of fly. She knows which direction the United States is in. And then you would have a great show because she would land somewhere in the United States, right? With her, Daryl, and Laurent, but not necessarily knowing where they were. And then they'd have to get their bearings. It would take them forever to get to the Commonwealth. I mean, they could land in Florida. You know, I'm saying like they could land who knows where. And because everybody has to walk everywhere, it's just, yeah, I think that would have been great. I don't know why we didn't do that, why we have to stay in Europe. But anyway, that's my pitch to the writers. I may come up with better ideas than you. Just saying. Sorry, not sorry. But you seem to want to kill off every other character, so did you need to save both of them in that plane? Or could we not have just put the Carol and Daryl with Laurent and then had that be the show? Because now there's really there's nothing tying them next season to seasons 1 and 2. Like, they've lost the entire original cast of the show to pick up Carol. Like, everyone's either gone, dead, or like Catrone just runs off. He just like leaves. He just has this moment where he's just like gone. And then he just disappears, and you're like, I don't know where he goes. So they, Carol and Daryl fight off, them plane leaves, and then they meet Scottish people. I don't know. This is really hard to follow for a blind person. This is as much as I get. And the Scottish people are like, oh no, UK's on lockdown. Yeah, as soon as it happened, the UK government got on it, and yeah, you know. So they are, like, the whole island, I guess, is secure or something, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna help you through the channel, that's the tunnel that runs under the English Channel. It's called the Channel, which is 20 some odd miles. The female Scottish character says it's gonna take 9 hours to walk. So yeah, not that these characters aren't used to walking. Like I already pointed out, they walk a lot. But sometimes they get a horse, and then the horse gets eaten by zombies. Every once in a while, Daryl finds a motorcycle. But they're kind of stuck walking 9 hours. And they get in there, and there's Bakwano. Now, he's the male Scottish guy who apparently has done this before. He says something about how, like, oh, that stuff's not good for you or whatever. Now, I think they're using the guano as a hallucinogenic, which it's not. And just, like, inhaling guano, not even ingesting it, not even in the way... there was something about how it was used in Ace Ventura, the sequel. I know that's a terrible way to remember it. But I feel like bat guano was used somehow in that as well. Um, and that's the other movie reference I have of guano. But I looked it up. It's not hallucinogenic, so it's all bullshit. It's just the writers needed something, so they put that in there. So the five of them, Daryl, Carol, Cadrone, and the two Scottish people are going through there. There's like one walker that I think one anyway, one that it's making any noise, and they seem to make their way around it. But they're, I guess, inhaling this stuff, and eventually they start hallucinating. And there's some gas masks, but not enough. And the Scottish people fight with Daryl over them. Carol's having a bit of a time. I think she's talking to her daughter. That was because she goes like, "Can I go with you?" And it feels like that would be because there's been such a huge focus on her daughter. It would be weird. Like, I mean, I could like it could be Ezekiel. Like it could be something like that from her past. It could be Henry. It could be something like that. But with the fact that they've already been pointing out the facts, the problem is it obviously isn't her daughter unless it's AI generated, because that girl is much older now. Like, if you think about how many years it's been since she played that character, since she got written off in season 2 of The Walking Dead, she can't play the character at the same stage anymore. So they would have had to get another girl who resembled her to play that. And or use AI, which is expensive, and I'm sure they don't want to do. But yeah, so she has a little bit of a moment there, and I think Daryl might have seen Isabel, maybe. He sees something, I don't know. But yeah, this is the hallucinogenic scene was not great for me as a viewer, but somehow Cadrone leaves. I got that impression that he just kind of disappears. Daryl and the Scottish people fight over the masks somehow. I don't know who wins or what that fight looked like, but there's a comment about how they don't have enough masks for all of them, and like, you know, I think the female Scottish chick was like, well, we can't just leave them. And I think that just gives Daryl enough time to figure out, you know, how to wrestle those masks away. Probably in a very lethal way from the two Scottish people. I'm assuming they died. And because it's a tunnel, I mean, do you really need somebody to navigate you through something that just goes one direction? It has one exit, you know? It's not a labyrinth. It's not like they know the secret path to Narnia. So, but I'm excited to see London now. They're headed off to the UK. Will they meet more people? A whole new cast that is perfectly crafted for Daryl and Carol instead of Daryl's cast that Carol just kind of walks into. And they don't have to keep worrying about the whole, like, who's speaking what language, you know? Like, maybe I'm sure fans of The Walking Dead weren't, like, thrilled about having to read subtitles all the time. It just isn't, we don't feel like that kind of core audience as a whole. And getting out of France means less subtitles. And even if they find Cadrone even if he's like the lone surviving character of the first 2 seasons, he speaks English. So, yeah, we have moved away from, and I don't think anything from France is going to follow them to England through the channel. Like, Jesus. Because then it's like you're like invading another country at that point, and it's like the French people don't know what to expect, and at a certain point you have to go, does any of this make sense? Like, why would we walk 23 miles for Daryl Dixon? At a certain point you have to cut your losses and just be like, it's not worth it, you know? If you have one guy who's an assassin who owes you or something, you can send them off and be like, but for like anybody to send like an army after Daryl from France just feels like ridiculous. I hope that doesn't happen. I still really want the show to address how many people Carol has lost. with Ash, but that never happens. Like Daryl sits down and he starts to talk. He's like, "Yeah, I was there when her daughter died. It really sucked." And he's, but you can still save Laurent. And I was like, how about all of the other kids that died along the way? Like she literally made a list, and then it affected her so much that she left. She left Alexandria, then moved into like a house by herself and like wouldn't have contact with anybody. And Ezekiel was bringing her like fruit baskets. Like, are you okay? Like, what's your mental health status? Um, and I think maybe they're afraid to just like regurgitate, but it's very natural. Like if you have family or friends with you and you're kind of uh, you've got a new person, right? And you're integrating them into your new friend circle or family circle or whatever. You're going to go through those stories and you're going to say, yeah, this is what we did in the past, even if it's tough to relive or if it's a memory or whatever. But he just doesn't really seem to want to do that. Like they don't want to tell Ash. And the funny thing is, the show ends with them sending Ash to the Commonwealth and Laurent. And like Ash has very little knowledge of anything. So he's just supposed to walk up and be like, Carol sent me. Oh, Carol, tell us about Carol. She had a daughter? I met Daryl. I mean, like, he knows nothing. They've told him nothing. He knows nothing about the Commonwealth. And he's just going to fly a plane to the Commonwealth and just be like, yep, what's up, dude? Welcome to the community. That's what we do here. Laurent at least has a passing knowledge of other people like Judith. So when he starts dropping names and has a little bit more knowledge of Daryl, maybe that'll help. But God, Ash knows nothing. He had a bunch of lies. And then, so like of the truth, if he started trying to spout things, he'd probably say like a bunch of lies, and they'd be like, "You don't really know Carol. Kill him. He's a liar. None of this makes any sense. What is he saying?" you know. um, yeah, I don't know. Why are we so afraid of like revisiting exposition in scenes and bringing them? I'm in a completely different show. This is a new character who is you're setting up to survive, by the way. So that there's a solid chance that the finale of Daryl Dixon is them making it home to the Commonwealth and them seeing Rick Grimes and then Laurent running up to Daryl and maybe Ash coming over to Carol and being like, I really like it here. Thank you. And then, okay, so like if you're thinking about that as being the end game for these characters is them reuniting with everybody back in the Commonwealth, then make it make sense. You know what I'm saying? Like if Ash has moved into the safe zone, if he's gonna actually make it to the Commonwealth, and there isn't some weird plot where we're gonna spend next season half following Ash and Laurent through, I don't know, Virginia, West Virginia, I don't know, somewhere. He landed in the wrong place and now he's got to get the kid to the Commonwealth, but he doesn't know where the Commonwealth is. Coming, The Walking Dead presents Ash. If you're not going to do that, then we just assume that he makes it. And with what does he say when he lands? that's the question I have. He seems to know nothing, and I don't think that helps him when you land a plane by a strange community and they're like, oh my god, a plane. Who's this dude with a boy? Hopefully Laurent will be able to say enough things that make sense that people will be like, oh, yeah, I think they actually met Daryl and Carol. But yeah, we're wrapping up the season. It's unwatchable still because it has no audio description. That's always kind of like the little surprise at the end is I'm always going to give this great unwatchable until AMC Plus puts audio description on it. The perk of having AMC Plus is to be able to watch Daryl Dixon before everyone else. It also doesn't have audio description, so I don't really know. Is that really a perk? Like, I don't feel very perky. But thanks for watching another. I did the first season. I did the second season. I'm not going to stop, you AMC motherfuckers. I'm going to keep doing the show. And by God, I will get audio description on these shows. There's no audio description on the flagship series, The Walking Dead. One of the highest rated shows of all time. 11 seasons. No audio description. It's baffling. Anyway, Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys on the other side.